Welcome to another episode of Toot Your Own Horn Music Matters. I am here with the one and only Dan Wallace. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being willing to participate, and I am super excited to hear about your journey and story. Where does it begin?
So it starts here in Baltimore, where I'm still based, though things moved around a bit. I started playing piano when I was 4. I switched to saxophone when I was 10. I got to use an old uh, Maria Grassi saxophone. For those of you who know about 1960s student saxophones from Italy. Uh,
How do you just go from piano to saxophone? Was it just like you wanted to be part of a community, or like what made that happen?
so I had a school band program, and I was encouraged to participate in it. There was an exploratory music program in 4th grade where we got to try all the instruments. I originally wanted to play trumpet, but I couldn't figure out how to buzz. But I already had a couple of years of recorder under my belt and clarinet. While I didn't like it, at least I could make a noise out of it that made sense to me.
Right.
Um,
Now, did they in your school district do what they do to some, which is they don't let you play saxophone, you have to play clarinet first?
no, they did. They discouraged me from it because I was a small child, but and also because it's expensive. But my the Maria Grassi saxophone I got was actually my uncle's, so I got it for free. And I did give it back to him 2 decades later.
Oh, how fun is that? Did he play later in life, or do you just
He played in high school,
Okay.
and he gave it up after high school. So he was like, "I have this thing sitting in my closet. Do you want to just use it?" And then when I became a professional, he's like, "So can I have it back? I kind of want to try it again." I'm like, "I'm not using it. You go ahead. It's in good shape." So
That's awesome. So who inspired you to wanna participate in band? Was piano enough to get you there, or what was it
so
that
piano was a really great starting place for me. A woman named Karen England taught me from the time I was 4. But I also had great elementary school music teachers, including Mr. Crothers, Jim Crothers, who I still play gigs with even to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he and I have a flute and piano duo together where he sings and plays piano and I play flute with him.
That's awesome.
So he was great. And then there was a woman named Michael Burwanger, who was our instrumental teacher, and she got me started on a lot of on learning how to use wind in things. She was a strings player, but as with many elementary school music teachers, she had to know all the instruments well enough to teach the beginnings of it, which she was really good at doing.
So did you enjoy them? Is that what made you decide to participate, or were your friends playing, or what was it that made you say, "Yeah, I wanna go from piano to saxophone"?
You know, I honest to goodness can't remember.
Yeah, okay.
I wish there were. I knew I wanted to play saxophone. I knew I wanted to play an instrument that was like a horn, but I don't really know why.
You said it was your uncle that gave it to you. Did you hear your uncle play it? Was it
Nope.
somebody No?
No, he never played it in front of me.
Brothers, sisters, anyone else in your family play
I
musical
don't
instrument?
I don't have any brothers or sisters, and no one in my family plays any music at all.
Mhm.
Uh,
Did you hear it on the radio? Did you like that it was shiny? Or
I wish I could
don't know.
there's not a really clear reason that I can remember from back then. I can tell you that music was definitely a path for me. I actually, if I didn't go down the saxophone path, I would have gone down the opera singing path.
Okay.
So I was going to go down one of those, and like I feel like learning a woodwind instrument was just an extension of like the music that I was already doing.
Okay. So your program in elementary school was really strong, it sounds like, and it sounds like you really liked your teachers, and so it just seemed like a natural fit because you enjoyed it.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It really wasn't. It was funny though. It really wasn't until middle school where I really decided I want to be good at this.
Oh, what made you decide that?
So in my middle school, there was a jazz band.
Mhm,
And like it was a very big, prestigious thing to be in a jazz band. This was 2001.
mhm,
No other middle schools, almost in the entire country, had a jazz band back then.
mhm.
And the guy, the band director, a man named Andrew Mitroff, at Sudbrook Magnet Middle School. He just retired 2 years ago. It's very funny. He keeps telling me to call him Andrew, and I'm like, I can't do it. You're Mr. Mitroff. You will always be Mr. Mitroff.
It's funny. I
Uh,
understand that.
yeah, and he's doing great. He lives in central Pennsylvania now with his wife, and they have a great time. But he was for a time in the Glenn Miller Orchestra and the Count Basie Orchestra, and he was also in the he was a saxophone player himself, and he was also in the the Disney bands, like the Disney World all star bands that they have for school and college kids. Yeah, he was in that too. There are videos of him from back then. It would have been like, I think, the 1980s or 90s. It would
Yeah.
have been a while ago, but they exist. Um, we got to see them once. It was very funny. He was like a kid. Yeah, but yeah, so his big thing was like, you have to work really hard in band class and get the concert band music together, and if you work really hard, we'll give you this like really hard audition music, like usually a Count Basie chart that you had to read, and there was like some sight reading involved and all these other things that you had to do, and you had to like at least attempt to improvise. um and so I normally you don't get into till you're an eighth grader, but he had a very strong saxophone section that year. All of the seventh graders were the first, second, and third chairs, so he let us in as seventh graders. And right after that, I had a private teacher named Dave Rubchinsky. Um, and right after I got into the big band, he and Mr. Mitroff knew each other, and he said, "I heard you got into the jazz band." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you want to play jazz?" I said, "Yes, yes, this is the thing I want to do." He's like, "Okay." So he gave me this mix CD, and on the mix CD, it had a picture of like an older man jumping off a cliff into like a large body of water, and it said, "Dive head first into jazz." And on that mix album was Vincent Herring, Kenny Garrett, uh, Johnny Hodges, Phil Woods, and at the very end, it had 2 tracks by Charlie Parker.
Oh, wow.
And I listened to the whole thing, and it was like, this is cool, this is interesting, but it wasn't until I heard Charlie Parker that I was like, what is this? I don't know what it is. I listened to it all summer. There were only 2 tracks by Charlie Parker on the whole thing. I listened to one track over and over and over and over and over. It was Now's the Time. It's 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Hours of just that one track.
So you were hooked. At this point, you were like digging it.
Absolutely. My parents told me, you have to turn off the stereo system now. It's too much. And I'm like, I have to keep listening to it. I got back to lessons with Dave, and I said, "Dave, I need to learn to play like Charlie Parker." And he's like, "You're 12. That's really hard." And I was like, "I don't care." And he said, "Okay, here's the Omni book." And I looked at it. I'm like, oh no, this is so much harder than I thought it would be. But we just went really, really slowly for a very long time. And we kept working on it, and then we'd like go to Johnny Hodges and then come back to Charlie Parker, and then we'd go to Kenny Garrett and go back to Charlie Parker, go to Sunny State, go back to Charlie Parker, over and over again. Eventually, I learned about Cannonball, and Cannonball Adderley was even more of an influence on me than Charlie Parker was. But there was something about the joy in Charlie Parker's playing that I was like, I want to be able to do that. I don't know how he did it. I don't know what process I have to do to get to that point, but that's what I want to do.
Huh.
And
And
so,
were you as determined about other subjects as you were about this in school?
oh God, goodness no. I didn't care about anything besides music. I was terrible at math. I could barely get through a book. Terrible ADHD. Um,
But you had friends. You weren't alone. You had friends because you
well, that's the funny thing about all this music stuff. I was really, really bad at making friends when I was in elementary school. But once I started doing the music thing and actually getting better at it, people kind of surrounded me, and they're like, "Oh, you can do this thing really well. You can do this at a really high level," even as a young person. I was like, I was a very odd child. I had a tough time interacting with people. So
So it gave you a lot of confidence and made you feel like you were good at something that people cared about.
yeah, and then even more so, I went to a place called Sudbrook Magnet Middle School, which was an arts. It wasn't only an arts high school, but it was mostly an arts high school. So not only was I good at this thing, I also was in a place where everyone cared about the arts. Like, there were no sports teams, there were no anything. It was just like being the lead in the musical was like being the quarterback in the football team, because there was no football team. So I was kind of top of the heap in a lot of ways. Um, But that was more for singing than for saxophone. For saxophone, that was my other friend, Matt Wooten, who still plays, but is currently curing cancer.
Oh.
I mean, he still plays every day, but yeah, he's a biotech researcher. So
That's awesome. So did you feel like you just a lot of times people tell me here that, part of what helped them keep going was they just had great teachers and the programs were solid and everybody supported them and there really were no hiccups. And sometimes when people have problems, they have a mean director or a bad private lesson experience or something like that. So it sounds like everything was just super smooth.
yeah, up until I was older, but by the time I was older, I had by the time I was like 16, 17, 18, and I ran into more of that type of person, I already had my goal in mind, so it didn't really bother me as much. Like there was a guy that I ran into that told me I didn't have the constitution to be a professional. It's funny because he and I play gigs now.
Oh, that's very funny.
Yeah, it's very funny. I'm not gonna say who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I remember that, and now I remember that. Like he's like, I love playing with you. I'm like, of course he did. He doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't remember.
Yeah.
But
Did,
yeah,
did,
but
did that at the time mortally wound you? Was that really painful for someone to be so critical, or were you just kind of like whatever because you were sure of yourself?
I was pretty sure that I knew. I knew. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a great thing to hear, but I knew that I was working towards something, and I knew what I wanted to be in the end, and I knew I wasn't there. So I was like, okay, he's probably seeing me as someone that isn't ready for a professional job yet. And I agree with him. I agree that when I was 16, 17 years old, I was not ready for a professional job. Um, I was barely ready for a professional job after college. I ended up working on a cruise ship after that. And that was a great experience. That was my first like real professional job.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because a lot of times what you described, if it doesn't happen that way, it really can derail somebody in terms of their commitment.
yeah, I think if it would have happened earlier, like when I was in middle school or early high school, I think it would have been more traumatizing. That's kind of what ended up happening with singing.
Mhm,
It's that well, with singing, it's always odd, especially for boys because of the voice change.
mhm.
Like it takes a really long time to get used to that, and your voice doesn't settle. Like with women's voices, I feel like they kind of settle a little bit earlier. They're not developed yet. They're not. It's not like you can go out and sing opera when you're 14,
Right.
but like you kind of know where your voice is headed. For a boy, it's different. You're not really sure where you're going to end up. You're not sure if you're going to be a baritone or a tenor. You're not sure if you're going to be a basso profundo. You have no idea where you're really going to end up. But like with the way that things are in the opera world, it's like you kind of need to make a decision. And if you make the wrong one, oops.
Right. So did something happen with your singing that stopped you from singing?
Yeah. I no one could decide if I was a baritone or a tenor.
Okay.
And they're like, you really need to make a decision and you should probably choose baritone. Good thing I didn't because I ended up being a tenor. I would have probably ruined my voice if I would have tried to be a baritone.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it just things didn't settle quite right, and there were a bunch of things. The other thing is there was this thought in my mind of like, if anything goes wrong with my saxophone, I can pay to fix it, even if I just need to buy a new saxophone. It just costs money. If
Right.
something goes wrong with your voice, like good luck. Like maybe the doctor knows what to do, maybe not. Maybe they'll make it worse.
Right.
Um,
But singing is such a great thing because as a professional clarinetist, I had to sing for 2 years as part of my Northwestern training. And it really helps because anytime you play a wind instrument, it is like you're singing through that instrument and to be the expressive person you are. And so it's
well,
important to know that skill, I think.
I will say I came into my college program like far beyond where everyone else was in terms of breath control.
Yeah.
Like in terms of sound production and breath control, very few people were doing what I was doing. There were lots of people that could play circles around me in terms of technique,
Mhm.
but in terms of sound, very few people could touch what I was doing, and that's where I had my advantage. I didn't actually have to work on sound until I was in my mid 20s, and at that point I noticed that there were things that were missing from it that I wanted, and then I had to back up and reform. But all I had to do for myself was I had to listen to Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett and be like, okay, just try to sound like them.
Mhm.
thankfully, I had good teachers that told me that that was the way to do it.
Yeah. So where'd you go to college?
I went to Loyola, New Orleans.
Mhm. And what was your major?
Jazz saxophone.
Jazz saxophone.
Yeah, jazz saxophone.
That is a very narrow major with absolutely few job opportunities.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. So when I got there, one of the things, the first thing they did was they stuck a clarinet in my hand and they're like, "You're gonna learn to double." And I was like, "Well, why clarinet? Why can't I do flute?" They're like, "'Cause clarinet's more useful to you." They were right. I did take flute lessons later just because I like flute.
Mhm,
Um, and I like flute literature better than even saxophone literature.
mhm.
There's a lot more of it. There's a lot more to choose from. I feel like it suits the instrument better. Um, a lot of saxophone literature is like pulled from violin or pulled from flute or pulled from oboe, and it doesn't. Even some of the most famous saxophone literature is pulled from cello.
Mhm.
It doesn't sound right to me. I'm like, I'd rather hear the Bach cello suites played on a cello than on a tenor saxophone.
Yeah, I understand.
Uh,
So how did that work out?
oh, clarinet terribly. I was awful at clarinet. I couldn't get the embouchure right. I couldn't get over the break. I couldn't manipulate the reed. I was like, this is supposed to be like a saxophone, right? Nope, not at all.
Right.
Um, I was thankfully put on third clarinet where I barely ever had to go over the break, but it was so disheartening for me to have this instrument that I'm like, I'm playing this like a 10-year-old. And like it wasn't getting any better. Part of it was probably the instrument, and part of it was the fact I didn't have a good mouthpiece, and part was the fact that no one taught me how to deal with reeds and how to shape them and how to blow things properly.
So you didn't have to take private lessons on clarinet too, or nobody would taught that in your lessons, or?
I I mean, I was given a lot of freedoms. I should have taken clarinet lessons. I took
Mhm.
flute lessons instead.
Oh, I
Say,
see.
yeah, I made a lot of bad decisions. It's funny though about that though. Um, people back then, this was 2007 to 2011. Um, Everyone was telling me how much work there was for doubling. I never double now. It doesn't happen. I worked on flute for 5 years. I worked on flute more than I worked on sax for 5 years.
Hmm.
And I almost never get calls for doubling. There's some clarinet calls that I get if someone needs like klezmer stuff or, like trad jazz stuff, which I can approximate well enough, but I don't feel great doing it. Um, but yeah, people kept telling me that like there's so much doubling. It ends up the most doubling that I end up doing that at this point is, excuse me, keyboard doubling. So like piano and synth and stuff, organ. That's where more of my doubles lie, more than flute and clarinet.
So it sounds like getting a degree in jazz saxophone served you because it sounds like you're working as a jazz saxophonist.
For the most part, yeah. I play a lot of commercial music.
Mhm.
Um,
How did you get that to happen?
uh, like as in how did I start doing it or how do
Yeah,
I continue doing it? Okay.
yeah.
So I guess that gets me to the cruise ship. So after college I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get myself out there. I didn't know exactly what to expect. And also I kind of wasn't ready for the professional world. Like there were a lot of like shortcomings in my playing that I wasn't ready to deal with quite yet. But a few different people encouraged me to work on a cruise ship. I ended up working for Carnival Cruise Lines. I passed the audition, and it's funny. I passed the audition on flute and sax, but not on clarinet. So they had to find me an alto flute position, an alto sax and flute position, because they're like, well, most of the woodwind doubles are clarinet. Um, the clarinet, uh, the clarinet audition was Rhapsody in Blue, and I couldn't play the solo part for whatever reason. To be fair, I'd have a hard time with it now. It's not the easiest.
No, it's not.
Yeah. But um but I got through the audition on flute, and they're like, "Well, we don't have too many people that play flute as well as you, so we should be able to find you a job." And they did. It was really helpful. It was great. Um I
How long,
did a lot
how long did you do that?
about a year, a little under a year. I'd say like 10 months. Um I loved the work. Like the work itself of showing up, playing the show, showing up, playing the dance set, showing up, playing the jazz set. I liked the work itself, like the actual thing that you got to do with music. The job I hated, like the living on the cruise ship and never being able to leave, and essentially like living where you work, and the where you work being essentially like Walmart but for entertainment. I really did not enjoy that, but I met a lot of really great people, musical and entertainment people on that, and I was really challenged quite a bit as a musician, and it really it got me to know my instrument better. It got me to know what's expected of a professional, um it introduced me to music that I had not listened to. So like there was all this like Motown uh and and like pop music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that I just skipped because I was so focused on sounding like Charlie Parker. And so like the first time I read My Girl, I'm like, I've never heard this song before. They're like, how have you never heard? I'm like, I don't listen to regular people music.
Yeah.
So I learned all of those arrangements while I had my 10 months on the cruise ship. I came back, and by the time I started getting wedding gigs and other kinds of commercial work, I knew all of that stuff already.
Well, that helps. That was good, actually, then.
Yeah, it was an important part of my growth. I I'm glad I did it. It just I would never do it again.
Yeah, I understand. Are you a band organizer, or are you part of a band, or how does that work? What kind of tell us about your commercial music gigs?
So my commercial music gigs are mostly private events. It's usually with a full band. I'm playing saxophone most of the time. I'm sometimes playing keyboards and synthesizers and organs and stuff. Um, it's with a company. It's with a few different companies actually. Um, and they hire me kind of freelance, and I just show up, I know the music, and it's done. There's no rehearsals, there's sometimes sheet music. If there's like a horn section, like if there's trumpet, tenor, and trombone, there's like section parts. But often you just have to show up, you know the song, and you just play through the song and make sure that the singers sound good. And the other thing that I've been doing with these either wedding or corporate gigs is I've been doing live sound, and part of the reason I started doing that is because no one puts enough horns in the monitors. So I'm sitting there going, I can't hear myself. I can't hear myself. No one's putting the saxophone in the sax monitor. And they're like, well, do you want more vocals? No, I don't need any more vocals. I can hear them. They're right next to me. It's fine. But I can't hear myself. So I started doing sound myself so that I could learn to manipulate it so I could hear myself. And it's become a big part of my career doing live sound for myself and for other bands. Um, I was in a lot of other people's bands doing original music. There was a funk band, there was an Afrobeat band, there was a hip hop soul band, neo soul band. Um, there were a bunch of other projects that I was in. There were other people's projects for a long time, and I really enjoyed them. Big part of my growth as a musician. But eventually, I felt like I needed to do my own thing. I have my own band now called Dan Wallace and the 11th Hour, and we play jam music. Is the best way I can call it. People are saying, "Well, it's jazz." I'm like, "Well, jazz is a very jazz has become a very staunch and conservative thing, and what we're doing is not that." Everyone in my band has jazz degrees. You know, the guitar player has a jazz degree, the bass player has a jazz degree, the drummer is in the middle of his jazz degree. Like we all have jazz degrees. We all studied Charlie Parker. We all studied Cannonball Adderley. We all studied Coltrane and Sonny Rollins and Michael Brecker and all these people. We all know who all these people are, but it's not like we throw that stuff away. But we're doing something else. We're doing something that's I don't know exactly how to describe it. It's honestly more freedom. I like to think it's more freedom. And I've really been enjoying running my own band because I get to do things the way that I want. Which
Who hires you?
for my band, we actually have a regular third Wednesday residency at a club called the Cat's Eye Pub, which is in Fells Point in Baltimore, which is the kind of live music district in Baltimore. It's kind of similar to Broadway in Nashville and a few other places around, and Frenchman Street in New Orleans. It's kind of similar to that. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar.
So who taught you Who taught you to be so proactive in filling in all of these little gaps and then monetizing them? Because what's really interesting about what you're saying is you played piano really early on and you're still using that skill. And the things that you were missing and the band you played in, you filled in that skill. Who taught you that?
I mean, I don't think it was one particular person. Um, in terms of the keyboard stuff, I actually left that a long time ago. And then during the pandemic, while I was stuck at home, not being able to practice, or sorry, not being able to play any gigs, I was practicing mostly keyboard so that when I came back, I could at least get through a pop keyboard gig well enough. Um, and it was a really fun exercise. I actually barely played any woodwinds for like 9 months. And when I came back to saxophone for gigs, it was a little rough for like about 3 or 4 weeks till I got my sound back. That's the one thing. Whenever I go away from the instrument for an extended period of time, the thing that always leaves me is the sound production. It's never the fingers. Fingers always know exactly where to go, but the tone will go away in like a couple days.
Hmm, that's really interesting. And so, is that the only thing you do? Are you just a performer or do you teach or
So I teach private lessons 2 days a week at a music store, a local music store. Um, I've I've done the online teaching. I don't really like it.
Mhm.
I've I did it during the pandemic and we made it work, but there's something about being able to play with your students.
Yep.
There's something about being able to play with your students,
Mhm.
and there's something about a lot of sound issues that I have with young students, I fix by playing at them and have them like
Mirror
up
it.
to me
Mhm.
because like they learn voicing by doing rather than me explaining it to them. I can explain to them like, "Oh, your tongue position's too high. Oh, your throat is squeezed." But even though I say that, it doesn't mean that they can fix it.
Right.
Best way that I've seen to fix it is for me to just show them and then their body just kind of absorbs it somehow by trying to match what I'm doing. Uh,
That's cool.
yeah, I've had a lot of success with that, and it keeps my skills up because I have to be good enough so that they can, copy me essentially.
Yeah.
It's not a true copy. You know how it goes with
Right.
woodwinds. It's like your body is your body. Everyone's body is different. So like the way your body responds to a reed, the way your body responds to the airstream is going to be a little bit different from person to person.
For sure.
So even though it's a copy, it's not a real copy.
How important do you think it is that people really dig how they sound?
I think it's everything. Um, I think it's everything, but also I think there's a point. It's like you can get to 99% and then it's just slowly getting closer. You just keep adding more nines. You never get to 100. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um but and like it's a lifelong pursuit trying to get your sound to be stronger and better and more flexible and closer to what you want. Um one people often ask me why I left New Orleans to come back to Baltimore. Part of it was because I couldn't afford to live there. But part of it was also there was something about the way that New Orleans musicians treat the gig. They want you to play the role.
Mhm.
If you show up and play jazz clarinet, they want you to play like um like uh like Louis Armstrong's clarinet player, whose name I'm not remembering at the moment. But they want you to play a role. If you show up and you play saxophone, they want you to play like the great New Orleans saxophone players played.
Mhm.
Like uh um uh Frankie Trombauer and some of the other folks are
Mhm.
um they want you to do that and they want you to like really embody the role that you're playing. But they don't encourage any kind of individuality. They're like they want you to show up and they want you to do the job and then they want you to leave and that's all they want. Uh
So
part of
there's
the
a
thing
theater aspect to it.
Yeah. And it makes sense as being as touristy of a city as it is. Like
Yep.
you need to perform, and that's part of it. And I know people that have really thrived down there in that environment. Uh, And it's not like I couldn't do it. I feel better about doing it now than I did, 25 years or sorts. I'm not that old. Uh, uh, 15 years ago. But the reason I ended up in Baltimore is because I feel like when I got here, I was really encouraged to be an individual
Mhm.
and really encouraged to develop my own personal sound and my own personal idea of what was important in music. And it was okay if it was different from other people's.
Mhm. And it sounds like Baltimore has a pretty thriving live music scene and that people hire bands.
Yeah, more often than not, it does happen. There's, part of it is the DC crowd can afford to hire
Mhm.
uh like event bands and excuse me, and other kinds of professional music. And there's some in Annapolis with the Navy and with the marina there. There's a little bit of professional music there, but even in it kind of spreads up to Baltimore, and Baltimore tends to be the more artsy place.
Mhm.
But there's definitely some up and coming things here that really uh that really generate some income for the event and for the musicians.
Mhm, that's awesome. Well, it's really impressive that you were able to make I mean, jazz saxophone is pretty specific, right? And for the people listening, because our whole goal is here is to try to invite people who don't really know music culture and don't really know how people get to be who they are as a musician to start to understand that it's not all that dissimilar or unfamiliar territory and something that they can pursue, right? But at the same time, I think a lot of people are always surprised that you can study something so specific as jazz saxophone and actually pull it off as well as you have and be able to be so successful doing it. That's great.
Well, I appreciate that, but I also should probably mention I'm not playing like Charlie Parker every night. There's got to be some level of flexibility there. And I've developed a personal style that can kind of fit into a lot of different genres and a lot of different performance um, performance environments and performance uh, uh, situations. Um, so as much as I love Charlie Parker and I love playing bebop and hard bop and all of the bops, and as much as I love studying it and love dealing with it from day to day, it's not what I get paid to do every day. So there's a level of flexibility involved, and I think flexibility is a really important thing um, that we should encourage students to learn more about, or whether or not you want to be a professional.
Mhm. Do you teach any adults?
I do have two adult students, one piano student and one saxophone student,
So you teach more than just you teach saxophone, piano, what else?
and flute.
What flute? No clarinet.
I gave up teaching clarinet. I was teaching it for a while. I actually just lost my last clarinet student. He was really great. I really liked working with him, but he decided to go into robotics.
Mhm.
And I said, you know what? If you like robotics, I think that's the future. You go for that. But yeah, I decided a little while ago that teaching clarinet was not for me. There are plenty of other people that can do that way better. I'd much rather work on flute and saxophone and piano.
And what's the environment like where you teach? What's the music store like? What is it a full service store? Is it a school music store? What's its kind of focus?
So it's a retail store
Mhm.
uh, that has some like purchase. There's not a lot of sheet music there. It's mostly a piano store. It's mostly like a Yamaha piano store. Yamaha specifically. There's some woodwinds there, but not much. Uh, and there's a pretty thriving rental, like a band and orchestra instrument rental program.
Mhm.
And I like that program because I like the repair techs. I think they do a really good job of keeping student instruments playable.
Yep.
It's so important. That was the one thing that I had a problem with when I was out on my own, is that I kept having people come to me with instruments that weren't functional.
Right.
And I was like, you're gonna be fighting this thing. Like the reason you're having the problem is because this F is blowing open. I can't I can't do anything about that. Like you have to get it fixed. Or
Right.
like this pad is like bent and like it's like leaking from the side. I can't fix that. You need to go to a repair tech, and without a repair program like at one of these stores, it's really hard to find a tech that you like.
That's great. And so do they meet with customers face to face and it's like an in-house thing? That's Is that what you're saying?
No, there is a warehouse, so they ship it to the warehouse. But these guys are pros. They won't. I always have a bit of an issue with the fact that they won't talk to the instrument people directly.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't send it anything of mine there because I don't have student instruments, and not that they couldn't do a professional instrument. I've played a Mark VI that they've overhauled.
Mhm.
It felt pretty good, but I think it came in good shape.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's really good they do quality work. I would just always put an asterisk by the best service you could possibly give is to fix an instrument and then engage with that customer so that they feel the connection because
yeah.
people don't know the difference between themselves and their horn. They don't know
Yeah.
where even though the horn's different than you, when they're playing, they don't understand. And so having a technician help them understand what's fixable and what isn't is very, very helpful.
So for me, when I have a student that goes to like a step up instrument, like if they
Mhm.
get an E12 or if they get a Yamaha 475, at that point I say, let's not do the store thing. Here's like 3 techs that I really, really encourage you to go take a look at and develop a relationship with. I have 2 personal techs that I've had long relationships with that I go to see on a regular basis because I have so many instruments.
Right.
I would recommend either one of them to anybody, and they both work really well with me. And it's one of the most important relationships in my life is me and my repair tech.
100%. I totally agree. In terms of playing at any level, it helps you so, so, so much. And on that note, if somebody was listening to this podcast and was like, this is a cool guy who has an interesting story, I want to be like him, what would you tell them to go and try to play a wind instrument right now?
There are really great rental programs in your area. I guarantee it. Either I think more of them are happening online, and even those are, as long as they're reputable distributors like you, um, you're gonna get a quality instrument. And if you blow into it, it's gonna make noise. So it's just whether or not it's a noise you're gonna like. Once you make a noise, then you can shape it. That's the thing. You just got to try making a noise.
Yeah, and you gotta see if you like the way the noise is, and you don't have to be good at it, you just have to like the way it feels to try to do it.
Yeah, I've had several beginner students that once they made the sound come out, like once they played a G on saxophone,
Mhm.
and like once they heard it and felt it, it was like, oh yeah, I want to keep doing this.
Mhm.
Um, and then once I got them to G, I got them to A and B and C and F and E. And with older students, I've had a couple older students that got all the way down to low C on their first lesson.
Wow,
Shocked.
that's great.
Shocked. But like it just the way the air went through the instrument made sense to them. They saw me doing it, they were able to replicate it. So yeah, that's the big thing. If you feel good about blowing air through the instrument and you like the feeling of how it like kind of feeds back to you, then try it. Try it and see what happens.
Mhm. And it's always good to maybe find a private lesson teacher, even if it's just for a few lessons to see if you really want to stick with it. If the store offers them, for sure, try there. It's just, it's really about community. And I think that you kind of embody that with all the different groups you play with and all the different experiences you've had. That's what music is all about. It's about building relationships and making new friends and playing different kinds of music and having all kinds of different people help you.
Yeah, let me tell you, my life would not be the same without music. Without the community that's developed here in Baltimore and the community I developed in New Orleans, and everyone that's around me, both as a mentor and as a peer, and sometimes as both. um, it's I, 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 my life could not be more rich in that sense. From coming from a guy that was a kid that was really terrible at making friends. It was an invaluable situation, an invaluable resource for me.